Right. So I had a McDonald's off Just Eat a few hours ago, and I feel like shit, right? And so what I've
Yeah.
realized is that if you take McDonald's and what they put in it, for example, the beef and the bread, the salad and the tomato, it's healthy. Having a McDonald's is more healthy than, say, going to a supermarket and getting a sandwich, because it literally is just, if you watch it online, how it's made, minced beef, like off cuts of
Mm-hmm.
beef, whatever, the lettuce, the bread, and the tomato. The only thing they add is salt. But the reason why I feel shit is because there's so much salt in that you get so dehydrated, not to mention all the
Mm-hmm.
salt on the chips, that after you've had it, the amount of salt is just like so much. If you were to do it in terms of
Right.
grams, that you'd have it throughout the day of that amount of grams, but you just have it in one go. And I just feel like shit, honestly.
Yeah, I'm sure very dehydrating.
Yeah, literally, it's just my mouth's dry and I'm drinking loads of water. And it just
Yeah,
reminds me why I stopped eating such bad food in the first place. Because I used to just have so much crap and feel shit all the time. And I
totally.
like to go
And
back
it's like
to,
the less you eat it, and when you finally do, you realize just how like it affects your body. That's like me with sugar. Like I'm such a sweet tooth, but I just and I try to, do relatively like healthy alternatives. But like once in a while, if I have like a piece of cake or like a donut or something, I feel like, not only is it physical, but it's such a depressant, like same as like alcohol. It like kind of just dampers your mood a bit as well. It makes you all brain foggy.
yeah, I said to my mum, are you thirsty? She's like, a bit, I feel a bit sluggish. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's so incredible, like how salt is in everything. And yet it's the thing that makes us feel the worst. And think about how people just have salt here and there, like salt and pepper on their food every day, salt in crisps, salt in sandwiches, whatever. All this salt adds up, and salt is just rock. So it's like, at what point did man or even animal decide that? I mean, you could say sodium, but in terms of rock salt, what point did we realize we need rock in our body? Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it does damage our arteries. It does damage us. You could say sodium is different, and it gives us fuel. That's what goats
The
walk
minerals.
to the top of the mountain. They lick off literally like the minerals at the top. But in terms of like salt, we don't need it. But imagine how shit I felt and how shit people feel consistently all the time, that they don't realize what it feels like to not have salt and sugar in their diet. And I don't have, like, I rarely have a glass of orange juice, because even
Mm-hmm.
then it's so strong in sugar, even though it's not like Coke, that I just prefer water. I just feel so good on water that having a glass of orange
Totally.
juice, I just rarely ever have it anymore. It's I just live off teas and water, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Or fresh pressed juices. Like I do like, freshly pressed orange juice. But yeah, even then it just feels like kind of like a sugar overload sometimes. But it is crazy how like sugar and salt are literally in everything these days. It's like what you were saying, at what point did mankind decide that we needed to like overload everything? And like, yeah, maybe it's like to sell more of the product and make it taste better, but it's like, okay, well, when we first started doing it, did it really taste good to people? Because like if we're not really used to it, we have it kind of tastes like, whoa, like there was something like kind of up with this, or it makes me feel like crap. So at what point did we become so like addicted to it that it's just like the norm, you
It's
know?
it's like man's around a campfire. They've just caught a wild pig, right? And they're chopping it up. It's like spinning and cooking, and then suddenly somebody says, "Yeah, pass that rock," and just like rubs
Yeah.
two rocks together,
Right.
and like all the rock just goes
Yeah.
in our food. It's like, at what point? It's like, think about it. If you drop
How
something on
did
the
they discover that? Yeah.
if you drop
It's
something
so
on the
weird.
floor, the first thing you do is you blow it off or you don't eat it. But on the floor is just the same type of thing: mud, dust, rock, minerals anyway. But yet you actually physically grind rocks into your food and eat it. So that's a mind thing. But it's almost like it takes over, it overloads your senses, that you don't realize how shitty or tasty the food is without. Because even chicken nuggets, it's blended chicken and
So
batter.
gross.
And I believe that the only reason why people eat it is because of the tomato ketchup. Think about it. You never have a nugget, you might
Right. The
not do,
sugar.
without
Yeah.
the tomato sauce. And it's like, I tried eating a nugget
It's
without
not good.
tomato sauce. It's just fucking disgusting. Like, it's just
Yeah.
boring. It's like, you might as well just get a
Yeah.
bit of chicken
Very
fillet from the fridge
bland.
and cook it and eat it. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
salt again and the sugar in the tomato sauce.
Exactly. And that seriously makes me want to throw up just thinking about chicken nuggets. I'm actually a vegetarian and I've been that way for like a while. I've gone back to like eating meat and fish before just to kind of see how I do. And I definitely just prefer vegetarianism. But after just doing my research of like, what goes into these highly processed meats and all of that, I'm just like so disgusted with it.
And that's the thing is that people would be like, for example, you say you're vegetarian or vegan, right? And then you suddenly have meat. They'll be like, oh, I thought you were vegan vegetarian. Obviously you lied.
I
Obviously
know.
you
Oh
weren't.
my gosh,
Yeah, it's
that
like,
whole
listen,
thing.
listen, mate.
Yeah.
I'm living my life. I'm doing what the fuck I want to do. If I want to have sex with a guy
Right.
tonight, I'll do it. If I want to have sex with a girl tomorrow, I'll
Exactly.
do it. I thought you were gay. I was gay. That was yesterday. Now tomorrow's another day.
Right. And like
If
we
I,
should have the freedom to explore with like what works best for us. Just because like you claim yourself as a vegan and you live even most days of your life as a vegan, but you have meat like once a week or once a month. You can still be a vegan because majority of the time you are vegan, but people are like, "Oh, well, it's the ethical side of it." You're still making a difference just by cutting it out one meal a day or one day a week or whatever it is. I hate the whole like stigma of like so black and white when it's like everything these days it's a spectrum no matter what it is. There's always an exception, there's always a spectrum, there's just no like point blank. And I feel like a lot of people are starting to kind of move away from that mindset because I feel like that was very generational.
it's like people who say have been, they've been straight their whole life and then they have a family, have kids, whatever, and they're 50 and he comes out as gay. I'm like, do you understand what you just said? You fancy women still, but you've said you're gay. Why can't you just like both? Why have you got to be one or the other?
Right.
You're not fucking gay
Totally.
because you've been shagging women your whole life. You've got a wife. What, you just suddenly don't find women attractive? Of course.
Yeah.
What does the gay mean? What that means is you ask not giving you any sex and you want to have some cock because you never did it when you were a youngster because of society and pressures and norms, and you kept that bee in your bonnet. You never got it
Right.
out, and you're feeling fuck
Hmm.
the world. I'm just going to do what I want to do, and all the things you
Right.
did, like a piercing,
So
a
it's going to
tattoo,
one other
sucking a cock, you just
extreme.
do it all at once, and it's like it's label again.
Right. And I totally believe that, like, that in itself is such a spectrum as well. And I think that's why people in general go from one extreme to the other because they have been suppressing themselves and not allowing themselves to have anything of whatever they're truly desiring. So when they finally have that freedom, they're just like, okay, like time to just really go for it. And, maybe they need to do that in order to find that balance. But I think if we from like day one really emphasize just be authentic. You know what I mean? Whatever that means, you don't even have to label it. Just like be yourself and let yourself just be right where you are, no matter what it is. Even if you're still figuring it out, that is okay. Just be real.
Yeah, and it's the same as transgenders, right? I don't personally believe that you're born in the wrong body. There's male and female, positive, negative, sperm, egg. There's always two, right? It's the stereotype of how a guy should be doing this and doing certain things like playing football,
Right.
fighting, arguing, holding your emotions in, and women should be having a chat, doing makeup, talking and laughing on a high pitch frequency. And so you look at these stereotypes and you're like, well, that's not me. I'm not doing Barbies and doing makeup. So therefore I must be the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So I chop my dick off and, make myself got some boobs. And so
Right.
it's like, I understand all of it. And it all comes down to, again, this pressure of having to choose between like Republican, Democrat, black or white, gay,
Mm-hmm.
straight, marriage, no marriage, monogamous or, cheating. It's like, fucking hell, there's just so much in between that people should be
Right.
chopping off their cock, period. Obviously, how do you explain all this to people who just want a way out? And the answer is you simply cannot. It's just evolution and just do what you got to do. But it's crazy when you see all this, even like, people wanting a boob job at like 14 because their boobs aren't very big. I'm like, Christ, your tits are still going to be growing till 25. Give it chance.
Yeah. Give
And
it a chance. Right.
and it's
Yeah.
like people are choosing between one or the other, and it's like there is no such thing as one or the other, and it's
Right. Yeah,
scary.
it's all what I think should whatever makes you feel good about yourself. And like that idea can be very twisted in our society because it's like, okay, well, I need all this plastic surgery. I need to do all of these things to make myself feel good. And like Sure, but that is kind of like sad, you know, it's like there's obviously a lot of inner work that needs to be done, and we kind of just use whatever we can to numb ourselves or to hide it or suppress it and not really get to the root of it. And a lot of it kind of comes down to like just that corruption of like masculine and feminine energy. Like, you know, it's we're either like highly feminine, like I have to be feminine, or I am not a woman, you know, when it's like no, like being masculine doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a man, you know, it's just energy and like letting yourself be fluid between the two because we all have it, you know, within us. And to be like fully like nourished within yourself, you need that healthy balance of the two because like they both want to come forth in different times of your life or periods or day to day, you know, moment to moment, just letting them blend together.
You know what's crazy is that, our father is masculine, our mother is feminine. So each person, boy or girl, will have both masculine and feminine. And yet, man is just trying to enforce the more masculine and hide the feminine because it's weakness or whatever. And, women
Mhm.
are more feminine and masculine. But it's complete mixture of both. And the problems are when you basically say, oh no, that doesn't exist, it's not supposed to be there, and it is supposed to be there. And the stereotype of men not showing emotion and women always talking about emotions, it's like this is all man-made up nonsense. You can do whatever you want. You can
Exactly, it's
hide
your
yourself.
life.
Oh, and men can
Yeah.
chat down the pub to a bloke who wants to listen to the nonsense. There's plenty of guys out there who'd happily listen to a man's nonsense, just like there is plenty of women who listen to women's nonsense. It's like there's no stereotype. Do what the fuck you want to do. If you want to hang with the lion, go hang with the lion. If you want to hang with the squirrel, go with the squirrel. So I thought you
Yeah.
liked lions. I did. That was yesterday. Now I'm hanging with the squirrels.
Exactly. So I think it's important to realize that it's your life and there's no rules. You know, like maybe there are like social rules as far as like do no harm. You know what I mean? Or like you could even call it like spiritual rules, you know, something that just like everyone should abide by to like create the most peace on this earth. But even that is not really being respected. And I think it comes down to because we're not respecting ourselves, we're putting ourselves in these categories and we're living by these like social conditioning rules that are telling us that we have to do this and this in order to be successful, or we have to do this and then we will be happy, when we know like internally that's not actually going to bring me happiness because that's not what I truly want to do. Maybe it is like maybe, you know, as a man, like you feel the need to provide for your family. Like, yeah, provide for your family. That will make you feel fulfilled. But working this like corporate job where you're literally working like 40 plus hours a week and you never get to be with your family, is that going to make you happy? So you have this family you're providing for, but you never get to see them, you know? So what's really the point in that?
It's the same as having a mortgage, right? Based on the amount you make per year. So you have to work even harder all day, every day to pay for this big house that your family live in that you literally see at 7 o'clock at night for
Yeah.
3 hours. And then you go to bed at
Right.
9 and then you get up at 6. And it's like the only time you see your gardens on the weekend because it's dark when you get in and dark when you wake up. So, like, all this space that you've just bought, it's like, I'd rather live in a tent or a bus, a motorhome, right? Where there's no
Mm-hmm.
debt, so I don't have to ever work. Like we only work to pay off our bills. If you've got no bills,
Right.
you don't need to work. If you want a massage,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you could trade with somebody else, cut their grass, they can give you a massage, or make money for the cash. The same as food. And I've actually started to grow in my airing cupboard, getting ready for the summer. Lemon, avocado, olive, garlic, ginger,
Wow.
jalapeno, pepper. I haven't planted these ones yet, but I'm gonna do tomato, leek. Um, there was someone else I did. Oh yeah, so I'm getting potatoes ready to grow and carrots, right? Because all you do is chop off the
Sweet.
carrot, the lettuce. Once you've got the lettuce and you've used the leaves, just cut the bottom of it, put that in
Mm-hmm.
water, and it will grow through the middle. And I YouTubed it how to grow a lettuce and also mushrooms. Literally, you chop the stalk off, put it on a piece of paper. It puts some pores or something on the paper, and then you chop that paper, put it in some like dark mud in a massive, say, tub, and it just grows, and all these mushrooms start to grow, and I can't wait to do
So
it.
cool. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
You never need to go
And
shopping again.
right, exactly. And, you know, I think like growing your own food should be taught in schools, you know, from an early age. Like, that's a school, like a skill that like people should learn. And going back to like, you know, if everyone was like doing what they truly wanted to do, like their skill or their passion or whatever, and we went back to like a trading system, you know, like, or a bartering system where, you know, I don't know about like housing, you know, how we would be able to fix that. But if we all like lived relatively like simply, you know, just with what we need for how many family members you have, and then, you know, housing is relatively affordable, I feel like it would create a definitely just more balanced society in general.
Yeah, the housing problem, there is no solution to it, because the more humans, the more you depend on humans to build a house, the more dumb we get and don't know how to build things, and so you
Yeah.
therefore go to big companies to build for you, and there is no solution. I mean, you could say the solution is like a coronavirus that comes along and wipes, a nice generation of people out, so it sort of resets again. Sadly, that is
Hmm.
the only way, because if you look at nature and how nature works, that's how it works. So that is how
Right.
it's going to work for humans. If there's too many weeds in a flower bed, it just, all the nutrients get sucked up from other plants, and then the weak ones die. That's just the way it is. But I mean, the housing thing is it's an absolute joke. Like, how many middlemen do you need to build a house? And then that's why the houses are like 400,000 for what, a two-bed house in England. It's a joke, and it's
Hmm.
like at the same size as a fucking Land Rover, not literally, but
Hmm.
it's a joke. And you spend your whole life paying off this house that you're never in, and your whole life's gone. And that to me is
Right.
absolutely not acceptable.
It's so sad. And you know what? I honestly, I feel like this coronavirus obviously was meant to happen because like Mother Nature needed to restore balance. And who knows what will actually end up coming of this, like what direction society in general will head in. But I almost feel like that is a huge possibility of like, um, this kind of being the catalyst to like a World War III. And it's like a scary thought, but like eventually, like shit just completely hitting the fan. And maybe a lot of it is more underground than like World War II, for example. But history does have a way of repeating itself. And it could be a way to literally like reset everything, resetting the economy, resetting everything, and eventually maybe going back to something more simple like a bartering system, for example. But you know, I've actually had some like crazy dreams about this, where it's pretty like actually relative, like right now, but it's like more extreme. So like in the dream, it's after this like World War III, basically, and like the human species in general, especially like westernized societies, they are basically like GMO themselves, because literally everything is GMO. The world is completely depleted, like the earth is depleted. There are no like natural nutrients, basically, like food is being printed out, which is already a thing. And then half the human species, their consciousness has actually expanded and accelerated like rapidly, to the point of like telepathy is like a main communication. We figure out that we can get nutrients literally just from like being outside and being in the sun, touching a tree, like things like this. But yeah, it was like a pretty epic dream.
It's absolutely true. And it's like, as you said, wars have wiped out loads of people, the same as flus years ago, like polio, whatever the fuck it was back then. Like, if you look at the charts, I remember going on Google and seeing how many people died from past flus, like, just polio, whatever it was, measles and shit like that. Millions. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand how millions could die from something like that. And now you see what's happening now. It's like, well, okay, that makes sense. But they didn't have planes and stuff years ago. So if millions could wipe out just, I don't know, man walking miles to pick up something and then spreading it to over there, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
many more are going to die because we can now fly and drive everywhere. And
Yeah.
somebody once said to me, I used to work with, that the reason why this so populated or overpopulated is because we haven't had any wars, because we've got military, we've got policing everywhere, we've all got governments, and that was one way of balancing civilization. So it's like, well, if you're not going to fucking kill yourself, God's like, I will. So the virus comes along, and just, yeah, I mean, it's going to be crazy to see. There's 8 billion on the planet right now. If you could say, like, 2-3 million have died already, by the end of it,
Hmm.
do you reckon there could be at least 1 billion gone, which is quite a lot in terms of how long it would take for 1 billion to come on the planet? Like, good, maybe 10-20 years, but do you reckon 1 billion could be gone? And is that enough to make everyone wake up and not taking shit for granted?
You know, who knows at this point? I mean, I do think there is a virus. However, I do think a lot of numbers are made up. I think a lot of it is scare tactics to keep people in fear and keep people in check. I could be wrong, you know, that's just like what I intuitively feel. And I don't push my opinion on others. But I don't believe in like watching the news and all this because I do think a lot of those numbers are skewed or kind of just like, you know, say someone has the coronavirus, but they actually died from another reason, it could be categorized as a corona death, you know. Um, so who knows how many people are actually dying from this? I do think that it is kind of safe to say that the human population in general is living in a state of fear, and living in that sympathetic nervous system is weakening your immune system and thoughts. Like your thoughts attract everything. It attracts your like experience, and I genuinely believe like you can make yourself sick just from believing that you are going to be sick. So I think the human species needs to focus more on like mental health, holistic health in general, of course, but like mental health is huge, and like learning how to trust your intuition and think for yourself rather than rely on people that you don't truly know.
Yeah, it's actually far more, is it complex or simple, right? For example, I remember when I used to walk and I had a bad hip, and all I kept focusing on was my bad hip, and it just kept hurting, and I was like, fuck, I've got a problem, I need to go get help or whatever, blah blah blah. And it just, the more I focused on it, the more I could feel that pain. Anyway, I went to the doctors, they gave me a scan, they're like, there's nothing wrong with your hip, right? Anyway, when I learned the law of attraction and stopped focusing on it, it disappeared, right? Same thing, I used to get pain in my bollock, just random pain in my bollock, and I'm like, oh my God, cancer, tumor, what the fuck? I'm like, fucking idiot, shut the hell up. There's no cancer, no tumor in a body at ease, you twat. You're basically a monk living off water and nature. How the fuck can you get a disease in you? Shut the fuck up. And then the pain just disappeared for a long time. And then I suddenly thought about, oh, haven't had a pain in my bollock for a long time. I get a pain in my bollock. So what that's saying is that your body reacts to fear
Mm-hmm.
just like when you turn the light on, you expect light. It's like it can change just like that. So the
Most
fear
definitely.
can literally kill you over time if you don't
Yes.
change that mindset. And it's the pain in my bollock is a fine example. I can turn it on just like that. I used to get pains in my chest, right? And I'm thinking, oh, heart attack, heart disease. Go to the doctor. Have you got pain from your chest? Yes. It's like, oh, well, it's just maybe you're sleeping on your chest rather than your back, because man's not supposed to sleep on his chest, type of thing, right? Anyway, so no pains in my chest for ages. I'm eating McDonald's, right? I'm breathing in and I have pain, and I'm thinking to myself, this is not a heart attack, because how the fuck can you get a heart attack within 2 seconds of munching on a burger? So it's my brain telling myself that there could be a problem, which is creating a problem, because no one has no one's arteries can get blocked whilst you're eating a burger. It's a long period of time. It just shows the power of the brain can stimulate other parts of the body and nervous system and mechanical parts and
Mm-hmm.
shit like that. That makes your body respond to what you're thinking. It's just crazy,
Right.
incredible.
And I think we're very quick to make the worst assumption. Like the second you start feeling pain in your chest, you're like, oh no, something must be wrong. When like all you have to do is just kind of like rub your chest, do some self massage with some like argan oil, you know, it's just like, because the body is constantly regulating itself, it's constantly adapting. Yeah, it's gonna have like some weird symptom will show itself. It's not the end of the world. Like, and I think we instinctively know what to do in order to help ourselves, but we are told to not, we're told to like, oh no, you need to go see a doctor right away, because they're going to know. They don't know what's happening inside your body. You can say chest pain and that can mean a billion different things to them. They can tell you whatever they want, if they want you to have a medication, they will give you a medication. They will tell you that you need that medication and you're going to believe them because they're a doctor. That's just where our society is.
I always think if a cow or a lion or a zebra was just walking along the day, and he hit his toe on a rock when he was running, or or had a pain, he doesn't know what pain is. It's just part of life to feel this throbbing in his chest if he's conscious enough to realize that there's a throb, or his toes bleeding. He doesn't know what blood is. He doesn't know that's called a toe. He's just getting on with his life. And then they just get on with their life, and then they die when they die. Yet humans is like, oh my God, bleeding, oh pain, fuck, I'm gonna die, I've got cancer or something. And then
Yeah.
you go down that path of I've got a problem and I can't find anything. Well, I have doctors, I can feel it and see it. And then eventually, long enough, that actually becomes a real thing. And, you know, as you said, he's prescribing medication for a headache, which was just because your brother punched you in the head, but because you've been thinking it's more, you've got bloody tumor in your head now. So literally, all these symptoms like feeling sick, a headache, can be millions of other things. But yet the
Mm-hmm.
thing you're exactly focusing on will manifest because you're
Right.
expecting the doctor to say you are absolutely right. Thank God you came here. I'm so glad you trusted your instincts. You've got cancer, you're going to die. Oh, fuck. Wish I hadn't come here anymore. You know what I mean?
No, it's so true. Yeah. And, I think that hopefully with this whole coronavirus thing, more people are beginning to awaken to like the need of just like changing your lifestyle and focusing on just a balance in general. There's no need to be so extreme to one end, like back to what we were saying earlier. You don't have to like go, complete carbs out of your, cut carbs out of your diet completely, one complete end. It's just, yeah, do what like feels good for you, but it's always coming back to balance, because this is what like nature wants, is just balance. And we are like intrinsically connected to nature. So I think as soon as we can find balance within ourselves, that's when like the earth can actually heal itself and things like pandemics will stop happening.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Think of a question, a completely random question,
A
and
completely
and
random
ask me
question.
that question.
What is the most embarrassing moment of your life?
Um, I'd have to completely go into my brain and think, because there's nothing that comes up on the moment like now. Um, I honestly wouldn't know. There's probably loads, but
Yeah.
just there's because the thing, I don't get embarrassed, because part of me doing me is about showing that no matter what you do go through, you're just a human, and it doesn't matter and no one cares. So there's no such thing as
Yeah.
embarrassing, because if you like stand there and have people taking the piss out of you and you can handle it and don't mind it, people will see that and they'll be like, wow, they're just taking the piss out of him right there and he's not doing anything. That's admirable. And it gets me, and for example, used to tolerating negative energy, people speaking about you, which is going to be there for the rest of your life, whether you are famous or not famous, whether you work for a small office and they go for a coffee and they're bitching about Maureen and accounts. That's just part of life. And too many
Mm-hmm.
people take negative energy personally and they can't handle it, and it can destroy your mind and life when you can't handle negative energy. So not being embarrassed about anything is powerful, because once you like have exposed to the world all of your weaknesses, you don't have anything that people can hold against you. So there's nothing embarrassing, because you've like shown your big fungus toenail and you've shown that big wart on your, you know, your bollock. So there's no there's power in
Need to be embarrassed. There's power in just allowing your like true authentic self to shine forward and not giving a crap what people think too. And I think people respect that with like however you're like say you're dealing with an embarrassing like moment like per se, but if you're just like owning it and you're just kind of laughing it off and smiling and just not really letting it take a hold of you, I think people will actually see that and they'll be able to like connect with that, and it'll be like more inspiring more than anything.
It's almost like Jesus when he died on the cross. He was like making a point that there's going to be people in life that don't understand. They think they're right, and you know you're right, but there's no way to tell them that they're wrong. And so you just got to take it. So, you know, put me on the cross. I forgive them because they don't understand. It's the same type of thing. Like you're showing that you put yourself in a vulnerable position, and that it's okay to be bombarded with with people attacking you. And there's a program called Embarrassing Bodies on English TV, which is basically a doctor's surgery, and you've got people turning up with all sorts of everything. Like literally, why the fuck would they go on TV with that? You know, whatever, you know, a nipple with a pair of boobs with 4 nipples. Like, why would you do that? And so the answer is probably for them that they're getting paid, of course, but they don't care, because there's billions of human beings. They've all got problems underneath the clothes, but no one shows because of they don't want to be embarrassed. So it's not, well, why are they doing that? There's millions with problems. And I went on a program called Naked Attraction in the UK, right? It's a dating show where they judge you based on being naked, right? And so people were like, how could you be on TV naked? How could you be in front of all those producers naked? I'm like, well, it's no different to my arm. It does, in my mindset, my, you know what, is no different to my arm or my leg or my hair or my ear. I don't comprehend that as that should be embarrassing. That's private. It's like, it's all just part of the same thing. Like if you look at a dog, he's not like covering his bollocks up. It's just, he's licking him right in front of you, literally. So he doesn't care. He doesn't know. So it's about me making a point that this is just the same thing, whether I've got my clothes on in front of those producers, millions have seen me on TV, doesn't matter. Why would I care what millions see who I'm never going to see? I don't even know saw me. Everyone's insecure about their own size. Mine's not very big, so I'm to put it out there. Like the more the more vulnerable you are, do the exact stream. So that's the only time I believe in doing the, you know, the extreme. If you want to overcome, say, some vulnerability or insecurity which you had, say, at school, you know, do the opposite, expose it. Because now it's like, well, now if I'm in the changing room with one guy, does it matter if he sees me? No, because the whole fucking world's seen me. Like, it'd probably be on Netflix at some point, and I'm not even kidding, right?
Totally. And you know, I think that we easily get in these mindsets of like, I'm the only person that is like having this problem. I'm the only person that is insecure, and everyone else has it all figured out. They're all perfect. You know, it's like we forget that we all experience the same spectrum of emotions, you know, and similar experiences as well, that we become so like isolated within ourselves. And I think that's why people really do struggle so much with like self-esteem and self-confidence, because we kind of take it so personal, you know, we take it very personal that like, oh, I'm so self-conscious about my body and everyone else is looking so good and they feel great about themselves. But when we really come out with it and we just express like, hey, like I actually am not feeling so good about this, and we realize, okay, well, neither does anyone else, you know, like, or we all have something that we're insecure about, and it's learning how to just accept that about yourself. Like, because I think a lot of people, like, you know, self-confidence, it's a journey. It's not something that you can just be like, you know, maybe one day, okay, I'm confident, and you stay that way for quite a while. And then you eventually go back in your old ways or whatever. You know, everyone is different. But usually it is like kind of a process, like every single day, learning how to accept the things that you don't like love about yourself. But just accepting that part of yourself, you know, that inner voice that is very self critical and judging yourself or judging others, learning how to accept that voice and just like realize that is there, and just having that awareness of like, okay, right now I am thinking a negative thought about myself, and saying to yourself, okay, hey, I love you for that, but like let's switch it to gratitude or switch it to something else, because that thought is not helping you. You know, if anything, it's isolating you more. It's preventing you from getting what you want. It's just holding you back. So, like, what do you want? You need to go after what you want. And in order to do that, you have to get rid of these thoughts that are actually holding you back.
So what came to my mind when you were saying that is, you know, like you got two AA batteries, right? Positive has to connect with the negative on the other side, right? So in our brain, you've got the two batteries next to each other, and they are providing a circuit. So if you turned one around, then it wouldn't work, and if you just had one, then it won't work, because you need to create a circuit. So in our mind, the negative thoughts are negative sounds, vibrations. In between those are positive sound, positive vibrations. So it's like negative, positive, negative, positive, right? And the negative thoughts are always going to be there amongst the positive thoughts if you have those two negative and positive batteries constantly creating a current. So how do you stop the negative thoughts? Turn the batteries around. So what does that mean? Basically means just stop processing negative thoughts, and they'll just die out. Like eventually they'll just die out because you're not giving them any attention. Like, don't water the flowers, they'll just die. And then you're left with all the other flowers over there, which kind of are on a different vibration, like a different nutrients, like positive vibration. And the negative ones that are living off, say, soil as opposed to compost, they'll die out. So now you're just left with like just all these batteries, positive batteries that have no current because the other negative charge isn't there. I think I've explained this wrong, but you get the point. So now it's just like loads of positive batteries that are there, but they're not charged because there's no other negative circuit to current it round, and
Right.
therefore there's no negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if only that could be so much like easily applicable. But I understand what you're saying. But I think a big part of it is also just realizing that there's always that contrast of dark and light. And, there's some quote, I don't even know what it is, but it's like, the deeper you go within your darkness is like the more you can shine your bright light, or like the happier you can be if you've experienced like extreme sorrow, because that contrast, and that's anything in life. It's like in order to have that light and the happiness, you wouldn't even know that it's happiness if you haven't experienced the other end of the spectrum, right?
Absolutely. It's like my dad always used to say, you wouldn't know what positive is if you didn't know negative. It's like, well, that you'd just be neutral. They'd just be just going about your day, doing what you're doing, and you wouldn't know what anxiety is, because just know what anxiety is. You need to have experienced non-anxiety, which is just
Right.
that happy feeling without feeling sick. So
Mm-hmm.
but then it's like, well, why do I need to feel anxiety? Well, like, there's a reason why I feel anxiety, because that's just a feeling. And then that could be complicated, because then it's like that's a
Yeah.
man-made thing that's put us in that box to feel anxious, when really we're just like a caged animal will feel anxious walking around that cage. That's anxiety created by man. But do animals have anxiety? Maybe if they feel like a lion's creeping up on them, but that won't be anxiety, that'd be adrenaline, because like the lion's not going to sit there for a few days just looking at him. He's either going to pounce and eat him, or the gazelle's going to run away, which means that the feeling of anxiety is completely man-made, and therefore everyone should be feeling this freedom, which is just thinking and doing. And then there's no
Mm-hmm.
thoughts building up, because I've got to go to the post office, because there's no post office in the animal kingdom. There's not, fuck, I got to pick the kids up from school. What, did I turn the gas off? Or there's no gas, there's no kids going to school in the animal kingdom. So all this shit in man's head is literally man-made. And
Yeah. And I
yeah,
think a lot of it is environmental too. Like we don't realize like the toxins around us in our food, in our water, in our air, like literally in everything. This can have effect on your physical body, and therefore like a ripple effect on your emotions and your thoughts. And a lot of it quite literally is like man-made. And like even anxiety, like, well, why are we living in a state of anxiety? It's like you have all these responsibilities or all these things that you're supposed to accomplish, whether it's your job or your school, and you're putting this work on yourself and you're afraid of failure. Well, once you take away that fear of failure, it's just like, all right, well, I'm going to try. And like, if I do well, then great. If I don't, oh well. But I genuinely do believe that like people can really like find their talents or even like their callings in life through times of darkness or times of feeling extremely anxious or insecure about whatever it is. Like when you really dive deep within that darkness and why it's even there and what it's trying to teach you about life, about yourself, this can really lead you to, well, I'm supposed to be doing this, and this is the light that I can share that I've discovered through going through that darkness.
I find that when people have had darkness, that if they don't kill themselves, they end up doing the complete opposite and being really strong, because like the deeper you go, the longer you have to dig yourself out. But people who don't have that much darkness, but they have some darkness, but it's only a little bit, that's why they stay in that pattern forever, because they've not got that difference of really fucking dark, really light. It's just all the same to them. So it's hard to really
Mhm.
get that contrast of feeling anxious versus feeling happy, because they've never felt really happy. They've never felt really anxious. They just always feel anxious, and they're a little bit happy and they're anxious. So it's like you need that difference to realize, okay, well, what's the point in having this pink car if my last car was purple because it's similar. You like, you need to have blue and then realize, oh, that's a nice
Right.
green car, to realize, well, that's a lot of difference. So again, I don't think that these problems can be solved. I do believe that it's a next generation thing. Like, you can't, it's almost like, how do you completely heal a heroin addict after 30 years whose body is basically heroin wanting more of the same thing, that in order to flood it out you'd need like 30 years of constant one-to-one like mentorship, that like even like bacteria and mushrooms, it just needs that tiny bit of mushroom to fucking grow mushrooms all over the place. Like, there's just
Yeah.
certain things that once it takes off, it's very hard
Hmm.
to stop. If you
Yeah.
look at nature, like fucking oak trees is there's acorns everywhere. You dig up that oak tree, there's another one. It's like, just imagine a heroin addict. You can give him yoga mats, give him life, give him love, give him sex, give him money, but his body's like, I need that feeling that we once had. And it's so
Right.
hard. And the only way out is essentially, as you know, to wipe out the generation who are fucked, which is our generation, and then the new
Hmm.
generation sort of just a reset, you know, because we're all following the same patterns of our parents. Um, Honestly, that is the only way I see it is changing, is that there's like no image of what it should be from our parents, and it's reset and we start
Hmm.
again, which could be the trade days. And think about it, Bitcoin, right? And cryptocurrency, there's so many coins out there that you can trade with anyone with any coin. It could be Bitcoin, it could be any other coins. So that's the local trading. But rather than carrot for a bar of chocolate by Sir, it's going to be a Bitcoin for a Wagamama's, for a KFC, or a McDonald's for a Ethereum coin. That is what's happening, but it's online now. So it's happening, this local trade, rather than cash and going to the bank. You literally can go online, download a virtual wallet, and send any coin that you want for literally anything, an Xbox, PlayStation, a laptop. So yeah, it's happening, but just not the same way as it used to. It's invisible.
Right. Totally. And this made me remember our last conversation. We were talking about like when we purposefully heal ourselves, like do the inner work to do what we need to do to heal ourselves. This can like heal the generations that came before us. And I definitely feel like this is a thing because the more I've like just kind of come to my own truths, the more I've seen this kind of trickle down in my family, not that everything is like fine and dandy all the time, of course, but I think with the next generation that's coming, I think like people are becoming just more awoke in general. And this in turn will kind of like have a healing effect of like all the past generations. And hopefully that has some type of like energetic effect on, the earth and society and mankind in general. It's like we kind of have to start rewriting the story of humankind. And it kind of comes back to like, Jesus and Gandhi and all these like spiritual leaders when they were really just like preaching the same thing. And they're preaching, I'm the son of God, but so are you. And I think that's where people need to wake up is like we all have that divinity within us. We can all preach the concept of love and all of these things. And religion is great. I'm not putting it down for some people. It's like it works for them and just finding what works for you, but realizing that like God or the higher entity, power, whatever it is, it's not necessarily something that has to be so foreign and so separate from us.
I think when we say it's going to reset for the next generation, it's like we're talking about a problem that has occurred for thousands of years. Literally, it's only the generation before. In fact, it's not even their generation. It's our generation. When I say generation, I mean people born in from like 1990, even like 2000, right? It's the generation from 2000, because our grandparents, their grandparents, parents, life was fine. It's our, as in you and me, our generation that is fucked. So when we say fix it, it's only got to like fix one generation. So it just shows like how problematic it is. You know what I'm trying to say? It's not like a thing that man has to evolve over time. Like they've got to learn to light a fire, and learn how to make a gas stove. Because that was
Hmm.
done last, literally generation before. It's like the problems that we are facing has come from our generation. But if we don't fix it, it will roll over to the next generation. At the same time, if we do fix it, then we reset back to our grandparents or even our parents' days. So it's literally a small fuck up, which if it isn't done correctly, will roll over. And I don't want to know what would happen. I think we'll be dead by the time our children's generation end up getting to our age and realizing this, because yeah, I don't think it's our problem, but it just shows you that if the shit that people like us have had to go through in our years, generation, school, whatever, only imagine what the next generation of kids have to go through. That if we don't teach them this new spiritual way of what life used to be for our grandparents, it's fucked. Like, I don't think many people speak about what their grandparents had. Like my parents, like they had no no heating. They had a fire, right? Their shower head wasn't a power shower. It was probably a shitty bath shower that you attach a shower to on the bath. And so, like, I'm thinking, how the hell would you wash your hair with this drip? Like, so when you wake up and it's freezing cold, like when they take a shit, it was outside. The toilet was outside. I'm like, oh my God, who can shit in the cold, right? And the fire, once it goes off at nighttime, you just have to wrap up. And it's not taught to people our age what it was like, even like 50 years ago. Like we've come so far in 50 years that 50 years ago, my parents, for example, had a wood fire. There wasn't central heating. And that's crazy to imagine. Like, I can't even imagine. And, you know, like they didn't have
It's
all
crazy
these
how
luxury
problems have
foods.
evolved.
Yeah, they just had pasta and rice and, you know, but all this luxury food we have, like noodles and like spicy noodles and Asian noodles and like doesn't even exist. And yet,
Right.
yeah, and yet all our problems are with all the problems we have are at the time when life is supposed to be the best. And I mean,
Right, exactly. Yeah, like all of this technology is supposed to be like solving our problems and making our lives easier. And of course, like it is to like a certain extent, you know, but it's crazy how our problems have evolved like over in such a short amount of time, you know, just how rapidly humanity has grown within the last 40 years. You know, that's literally nothing. Like 40 years is nothing, you know, that's like half a lifetime. But all of the technology that we've gotten, and a lot of it is probably not even out yet. Like there is technology that we don't even know about. So like even 40 years from now, like where are we going to be? Like how like you know what I mean? In what way are we going to be like how heavily will we be relying on like technology and all of this? And to what extent will people be thinking for themselves? Like, are we going to spiritually expand, or are we going to get to a point where it's like we have no choice because we all have like microchips in us or something like this, you know?
no, if you don't use the brain, it dies. We're going to go back to chimps. Being on our phones, we are our back kind of
Yeah.
arches, and then we're just dumb chimps. Everyone's corporations, Siri's doing everything for us. We're going to be brain dead, and we're not going to be able to think for ourselves. But in terms of the technology, you know, like holograms. So, for example, I'm doing a podcast with you. You'll have a machine that will scan your body, get your fucking hell, hologram image, right? Where I will then be, imagine like a tanning booth, like a sunbed tanning booth, where it's just like completely rounded. So I'll be standing in like this kind of rounded thing. It'll be digital. So I'll be looking straight through, I don't know, a screen, but it will be like you're standing there. You know, these 3D cameras where you look around? So rather
Mhm.
than me looking at a screen of it 3D, I'll be in a kind of like a
Like a
wardrobe.
3D
Yeah,
model,
a
right?
wardrobe, let's just say, and you'll have a
Mhm.
wardrobe and it scans you, you're in it, so I can see all different sides of you, your head, your back, your face, whatever. And it's like you're there in front of me.
Mhm.
But it's just like light shining up that shows me you and your frequencies. And it will be quite amazing because yeah, it'd be quite amazing. And that's how it will be. And it's like I'm there with you, but I'm not. It's like you can sit on a couch next to your friend who's not there because you've got like
Mhm.
AI masks on. So you look to the left, your friend's there, who's actually not there, but it actually feels like she is. And you take your mask off, and it's just your dog. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Who are you talking
Right.
to? But yeah, that's how it will go, and that is quite exciting if you have the spiritual balance, you know, of course. But
Right.
um yeah, what's the time, by the way?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't checked.
What, have you
Let's
got to
see.
go, or
Oh, it's been about an hour.
have you got to go, or do Do you want to wrap it up or what?
I probably should get going. I do have some things I got to get done today.
Okay. Anything you want to promote before we go?
Well, I just started a YouTube channel. It'll be like yoga, health tips, lifestyle, things like this. And it's called Promise Holistic Health.
Promise Holistic. Instagram. Do you want to say your Instagram?
Yeah, my Instagram name is the same, Promise Holistic Health. So please find me on those platforms and subscribe because my YouTube channel is lonely right now. I literally just started it.
Okay, wait, I'm just going to press stop. Hang on.